and welcome to Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks today. Before we get started, definitely want to give a quick shout-out and thank you to all of our patrons that are supporting the show. We couldn't do it without you. If you're interested in becoming a patron, you can find that information about that, I should say, at patreon.com/atyourendstep. So thanks again. All right. So we have a few community topics that we wanted to kind of discuss and talk about. And the first being that this is something that I don't know if we've seen really, like a pre-announcement of this, if that makes any sense. We've had
We've gone back to announcement day.
like we've had instances where we've had like something like this at like an emergency level, but like a pre-scheduled moving up of a ban list announcement. So
I mean, that probably looks better than the Felidar Guardian ban did, right?
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. But they are moving up the next ban list update. It was going to be sometime in November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I want to say it was like November 18th that week.
Yeah.
That could be crazy.
But they're moving it up to October 21st, which is next Monday.
Yeah. When we record next, we'll probably have less cards than standard, if I had to take a wild guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, there might be those out there that would scream, like, any kind of speculation about this is baseless. And to those people, I would say that you're probably wrong, but still, leave myself an out by saying probably.
Yeah, they did suggest when they made the announcement that it was due to a busy schedule, and you do have the holidays and things like that, but I don't think the announcement doesn't change those things. Like, the only reason you would move it up because of a busy schedule is because people are making travel plans for your events.
Yes.
Like, that is the feasible reason you would move that up. Busy. So now, maybe they're not going to ban something they just wanted to see, but the nature of this weekend's Mythic Championship means that they made that announcement shortly after receiving all of the MC deck list submissions.
I guess they technically hadn't received all of them, but they probably received a lot of them.
Yes.
I would imagine at that point in time. So, because I think registration was still technically open when they made the announcement. So
yeah, obviously they have arena data and then MTGO data and everything else, and we'll talk when we get to those deck lists, because I will say this, it may not just be standard.
That's true.
That's something to be said. But it does seem likely that and here's the thing, if it is a standard banning, I appreciate them moving it up and just being done with it quickly. Rip the Band-Aid. Like, it stinks that you have to do those bannings, but I think that they can change the narrative a little bit and reduce the stigma of that. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? Like, the problem with the other ones is you wait so long and you make everyone get miserable. Like, don't give them time to be miserable. Throne is going to be the only set that's new until January. Like, if you're changing, do it now, rip the Band-Aid, and let people still be excited about new cards. So it makes sense. And we'll see what happens, I guess, next week.
For sure.
So, do you want to wait till we talk about deck lists to speculate on cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'd probably be for the best. Fair. And something I know that we did also get is actual release dates for Theros, the next Theros set, and then
it's like January,
Ikoria.
Like the third week in January, like January 20th or something like that for Throne or for Theros, and then I don't know for Ikoria. So
yeah,
it's cool. We have release dates for that. It'd be nice if we had release dates for Brawl
on Arena. October, they said. So October.
Well, we got 2 weeks until it officially becomes MTG Portal, and then I'm just going to become Carrie 2. Like, that's just what it is.
At the very
least, not the bad sequel to the film, but the Carrie on Twitter.
At the very least, we know that it can work inside the game, right? Like, we know that it can exist.
Yep, that's true.
Hopefully, it will exist soon.
So, like, I don't know. Maybe the precons gain sentience, and that's what they had to shut down the whole system.
So. Next up, we also did get some new products being announced. The first one was Unsanctioned. This is another product, but not set. It's going to basically come in a sealed box. It's going to have a sort of 5 30-card decks, and these 30-card decks are going to be composed of uncards. So they're going to be both new cards as well as reprints. So this will be the first time that we actually have, like, reprints of uncards,
right?
Which is kind of interesting. It's also going to have 2 six-sided dice, which isn't very common in a lot of Magic products. 10 double-sided tokens, 10 full art basic lands, and there's going to be 5 regular and then 5 premium, and then 1 reusable box. And again, like these full art basics, they announced this on Weekly MTG, and they said that they are very aware of how these full art lands are looked at. So they're going to have a very sort of similar stylized presentation as we've seen in previous onsets. Now it's important that the lands inside the 30 card decks are not going to be those. So you're not going to like just buy these and have a buttload of cool full art lands.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what these look like. I'm a little bit worried to see what they look like, because if they're really, really great, I'm going to have to buy 2 sets of unsanctioned to replace my Battle Box foil lands. So we'll see.
We'll get back to you on that once this gets more images out. And people really liked Unstable, and I think that's helped them get this greenlit, right?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Like yes, Unstable definitely helped get this greenlit, and I think this. So the unproducts are so obviously weird. The first one was very very gimmicky, and that was it. And then Unhinged, kind of blew the top off the whole proceedings of it. If you get bored, just go read some Unhinged cards sometime and just be like, okay, everyone got to calm down, stop being so funny. Like that's and like you had like weird things like the focus on art, and here, okay, that sounded bad because like I love the art for Magic, but like the focus on like naming artists and things like that, which is like sounds like a cool idea, but it's super like clunky in any sort of execution, and like modern design mixed with the idea of like what unset could be really fueled Unstable. And those people who latched onto it now, I would bet more often than not the player, because like I enjoyed Unstable a ton, but I know that like newer players really liked Unstable, and those players have never played or gotten a chance to open a pack or see any of those older cards.
Yeah, and
they're gonna miss the jokes on some of the, again, especially in Unstable or in Unhinged. I mean, so this is a good chance to bring out some of the classic favorites, some of the ones that your shiniest jokes.
Yeah,
and I think they're going to use this then to test for sequel to Unstable.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of both. Like this obviously exists because Unstable was so was so well received, and then this is their test to see if like they can reprint some of these other cards, because like then you could have an unset that is like some unreprints and some new, so you don't have to come up with so much for a new set.
Yeah.
So I think it's like like a double handshake there. We're like, well, we'll see what happens with it. So
yeah.
I like this kind of product. This is wacky. It's fun. I really did enjoy it in Unstable. I appreciated doing drafts of it. I could definitely be convinced to sit down and play with some goofy cards just for fun.
Yeah.
So, and again, I mean, I'm not normally the target demo for this, but those lands.
Yeah, those lands,
they could get me.
And it's something that is self-contained, right?
Right, 100%.
You buy this, you sit down with a few of your friends, and you can just play it, which is really, really handy. And you can, I think the goal is actually so you can combine two decks into 60 card decks if you want to do that as well. I think it might be structured similar to how like their game night product, which they did talk about Weekly MTG, is structured in a very similar fashion. So, but the other product, I hate this. I hate it. I haven't even talked about it yet, but I just
all right. I'm going to stop Morgan here, and I'm just going to, for your benefit, the listener. Morgan very quickly made some of these show notes as we sort of worked on them together, and I'm just gonna, before Morgan comment, I'm gonna read his bullet points that he typed out for this. So, MTG Mystery Booster, bullet point 1, literally just a loot box. Bullet point 2, there will be $45 and $75. I don't even know what that means. He's going to tell me. For sealed, and then sealed events. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was 2 different bullets. Okay, so $45 and $75 sealed events for it in November. Third bullet. Okay? Question mark.
So they've been decidedly cagey about this product. They are selling it as like, be a part of history by being the first to open this mystery product. And there's going to be like, they're sealed. I think the $75 sealed at Richmond is a double up sealed. The $45 one is not. And it's no, why? I just don't get it. Like, stop selling me on this. Stop trying to sell me a lotto ticket and saying like, It could be anything, though.
Yeah,
Don't you want to see what it is, you addict?
WotC's weird. Like we've talked about this so many times recently, but like them looking at the game industry in general and going, now's the time. Now's the time to double up on loot boxes. Like, I mean, I guess like luckily for them, like nobody likes Activision Blizzard anymore, so they can get all the heat, and WotC can just be like, look what it, who cares?
Who cares?
We didn't ban anybody for their political views, so here's a loot box.
Here's a, because like I mean like I don't even think like calling it a loot box is necessarily fair, right? Because like,
oh, we don't know what it is, so
a loot box, you can at least understand like what you're opening. Like, you know that there's some amount of like things,
I know what I'm
items
opening.
to obtain.
There will be magic cards inside.
Okay, yeah, but you have like a limited pool typically in a loot box. This is,
I'm sure it is a limited pool. It's probably not every magic card ever made, but maybe it is.
okay. Well, we know it's limited because there's no reserve list cards. They did confirm.
Well, there
that.
you go. So we know the pool is a possibility of all magic cards beside the limited, beside those ones. So the reserve list. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know because like so part of this is like is it only do you only get the packs for those sealed events, or do you like if you play in the Magic Fest do you get one?
I'm just literally shrugging my shoulders because there's not they have an announcing page, and here's what the announcing.
Oh, it's
page
just like
says.
a black page, right? Like it's like
no,
real...
it says it's written by Blake Rasmussen. It says, "Huh? What's this mysterious thing?" And then it has a picture of the booster, and it says, "Find out more at Magic Fest Richmond, November 8th through the 10th." I can't believe there is space wasted on this in Al Gore's internet. All right, that's all I have to say. Like that, this is upsetting, and maybe no one else will care, and that's fine.
This is the equivalent of you going to like some really sad, like really bad one-man show where the person is the one-man show walks on stage and starts to walk off the stage before looking to the audience and going, "Oh, didn't see you there." That's what the equivalent of that stupid page is.
I hate this. I hate it. I hate it, WotC. And like, here's the thing. Like, the people are going to open it, and we're going to have to talk about it. We're going to have to talk about what's inside of it. And like, that's even worse. I don't know what's worse, that it exists or that I'm going to have to talk about it again in November.
Have you ever had a Bosco stick?
No.
It's a Bosco stick is essentially a cheese-filled breadstick they sell at like dairy bars, like smaller fare. It's also a consistent, at least in our region, lunch food item at like schools. And their tagline is "What's inside?" And I've always been like, God, I hope it's cheese. You know what I mean? So like, what's inside? God, I hope it's like magic cards that are worth your time, I guess. I let me play devil's advocate for a minute. We don't have any sort of master set, so not doing that, right? We don't seem to currently have a structure for getting some tournament staples into players' hands. We're going to talk about Modern. If they don't make a ban in Modern, you've got things like Mox Opal that is now, it's going to be close to $150 here shortly. Like, if
right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to do master sets. They have to have some ways where they can just dump some cards into the pool. And like, it doesn't have to be a ton all at once if they do these at Magic Fest. So now that's me making an assumption about what's in it. Okay. Chase Andres literally on Twitter said he thinks it's just going to be people getting like a random standard pack that could be a master's pack. Like, that's it. Like, you're just doing chaos drafts. And like, if that's the case, then oh boy, like that's the equivalent of like, I thought I'd go to the bathroom and then I sat in the toilet and just farted. Like, that's it. Like, that's all it is. I don't mean to be blue with that, but quite seriously, that's what it is. You're going to open a pack and go, it smells like 100, like 1,000 people in this room just farted at the same time. That's great. Thanks for that. If they were actual whoopee cushions, I'd respect that more. But it is possible this is a way just to get some staples out. Just like, hey, you're already coming to this thing. Here's a little bit of value for coming to this thing. If it is valuable enough, I could also see it it pushing out the traditional GP promo. They're already like specializing those promos, right? So like, if you go to the GP, what promo do you currently get? Is this a lightning bolt?
I think it's the lightning bolt. Yeah,
which is great. Like, I love that. And if you go for the commander, like the commander area, you get
Soul Ring.
You get Soul Ring. So like, they're playing around with that. If this is a way to just print some mid-tier, with rare exceptions, high tier, like, you'll get maybe some modern staples or some standard staples that are older in the format, you know what I mean? Then that seems fine to me. If it is just like a standard booster pack that every couple of people get, like a collector's pack or something like that, then like boo on you, WotC. I boo you. Be booed.
So like you'd want to say, well, by creating such intrigue into this product, that it would have to be worth it, right?
No, definitely not.
You want to say that though, right?
Yeah, but you want to say that, but I know
in the back of your head, you're like, no, WotC, I'm not going to be tricked by you. I know that you cannot.
Again.
I know you can't possibly live up to like that expectation of this being like worth it, and it can't be worth it for everyone, right? A randomized product, it can't be worth it to everyone.
No.
Not everyone gets to be a winner, and I understand that, and I get that, but just like it feels really predatory. And,
oh yeah, absolutely it is.
And like that, I think is the thing. Like we've talked about this like recently before, and like how WotC is like pursuing more and more of like this very, very like predatory like with this, it just feels like they're really trying to take advantage of people's like FOMO, right? Like this thing, like, well, if you're not here, like, how can you not be part of this? Like, it's just so like you have it's getting swept up in like a zeitgeist.
Let me pump the brakes here a minute.
All right.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't recall us criticizing WotC in the same fashion for making like the Las Vegas GPs an event that you can't miss. But they did successfully do that.
Yes, but you knew what you were getting by going to a Las Vegas GP.
But you were still just getting booster packs. Like, yes, you knew what set you were getting, but you were still just getting booster packs. But they did use it to turn it into a party that preys on the concept of FOMO. Like, I don't think we can say that that's necessarily... We can be upset by, I think, the nature of, like, it could be anything, right? But, like, we didn't criticize Star City when they did this, because they did this.
They did what?
Multiple times they did it where you got a little pack.
The Gold Rush.
The Gold Rush, yeah.
Yeah, so
and
like...
was that not the same... quite literally, that has the potential to be the exact same thing that this is.
Sure, but the Gold Rush was just an add-in to like your event.
Okay, but so we don't know that this isn't though. Like if I walk in and I paid for GP entry and I sit down and they hand me one of these packs...
That's great.
Then, like,
that's fine.
That's literally the same thing.
This is sealed. But there's no inclination that that's
sure,
what it is.
But like those sealed events, like, so the one thing I will say for that though, then is like if you were already going to GP Richmond, you might look at this and go, "Oh, that's interesting," right? But this does not necessarily change anybody's plans about what that weekend is.
No,
they could. I
think like they are betting on it changing enough.
Of course they are, but I don't think I'm going to say that is necessarily. I think the nature of a pack like this, where it's like, oh, what it is. I agree. I think it's ridiculous and it can border on predatory, but I don't think it's wrong to like for them to like try and use. We did not say the same thing about similar tactics that were used to try and get people to events.
I don't think those similar tactics were that much a part of the actual like event.
Maybe that's true. Maybe that's
I think like
true.
if you're throwing it in as an add, if this was just like, hey, guess what? We're getting rid of Magic Fest promos or what have you. Once we get done with Lightning Bolt, we're gonna have these mystery packs. You don't know what's gonna be necessarily in them, but here are some things that you might see. Here are some things you might expect.
Which it has been their more normal MO on these things.
Yes.
So.
You're literally, like, they're banking on people literally paying $75 to sign up for something that they hope is worth their while. It could literally just be, like,
nothing.
garbage.
Yeah.
And then, like, that is wrong. Like, that is predatory.
I don't disagree with that.
So, like, that's what's frustrating and why we didn't criticize people for it, because it was just fun. It was just a bonus. And, yes, that helped drive marketing to that event, but you knew what you were getting into by signing up for it.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't necessarily disagree. I guess I'm not as outraged over that concept. Like, side events have gotten to the point now where they're using every dog and pony to like Nationals was like that for 2 straight years. Like, here's our spicy promo. Come grind side events and get all the spicy promos. Get all the flooded strands you can.
Sure.
And like, so yes, you knew you were getting a flooded strand, but like I don't know. I guess like the cloaked manner of this makes it worse. I agree, but I still don't necessarily think WotC is entirely wrong for doing this kind of practice. The stupid, like, the lottery ticket concept, the loot box concept, that's something they just have to deal with. And when they do eventually get sued because, like, the Senate takes action on digital loot boxes and then turns to paper ones, that's on them.
Yeah. And I can't imagine if this is just like some sort of I just like, I don't know what this could be that makes it seem worth it, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I said, like, I think if it's like okay packs that have, I said, like, the awkward thing is the drafting or is the playing sealed with it, because like that suggests it's a set, and like if this is a secret set release, I don't see how that's a positive thing. So I tend to agree with you on that, because like you're not just going to get like all rares and things like that. So I don't know. I don't know, to be quite honest, and I don't know what it could be that would make me happy. I'm also super content to just kind of ignore it.
So here's the thing that they could do. Here's the thing that makes it worth it, right? These mystery booster packs are all packs from a cube product, and that's what they are. And then they are going to release a paper cube product that you can just buy a cube directly from WotC or whatever. And that's how you release this into the wild. And that's how you do it. So it's a reprint set, but it's obviously all cube packs. So like all the cards from Magic history, varying price levels, what have you. And it's like, this is our, and they are messing around with top tier products with a very high price point with this most recent release, which is like a $450 thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's our set. It's a cube set. It's a 350 cube or what have you, or whatever size they make it.
Sure.
It's based off it might be based off of I don't know, Modern Cube or something like that.
Sure.
And here it's $500.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
I think if this is like their way of rolling that out, because it is something that people have wanted for a very long time,
and they have hinted at it recently in surveys.
Yeah.
So
if that is what it is, if that's how they decide to pull this off, then I think people will be satisfied. But I think that is not what's going to happen. But that's their out. That is their out
positive spin
for me, at least. If they did that, I'd be like, fine, you got me, and I might buy it. And the last thing we're going to talk about here in community is the Magic Fest and Players Tour dates and locations were announced for the 2020 year. So we obviously have a lot more of those player tour dates. They're going to be in a bunch of different regions, 3 different regions every season. Excuse me. And the one thing that I think a few people on Twitter pointed out is that all of the Players Tours events and even like the finals, not the grand final, not the last one, because there's no date, there was no location for that one, I don't think. But all the actual like finals for the season were all in the ones in the North America region.
The Americas
region, yeah, that's what I meant. Are all in North America.
They're all in the United States.
Yes, they're on the United States.
I think that's the point you were trying to get to.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have one in Phoenix, one in, was it Minnesota, and the other one's in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So I mentioned this a little bit when you posted in our show chat. I think that is frustrating for sure. The Americas obviously consists of a lot. When you obviously include South America, Central America, and Canada, like there's a lot more than just America or United States there. I will say that I'm never going to be surprised that a country based in the U.S. is okay with running their bigger events in the U.S. Like they know its laws better, they know its taxes better, they know like all those things. So like I'm never going to fault a company for doing that. Yes, we want them to spread out more, and the very nature that they are splitting them into 3, like if you're asking someone from a South American country to travel to Phoenix, Arizona to still be able to be in a PT as opposed to Europe, you know what I mean? Then I still think it's a win, because you know that where you're going to be in each season. If you're a Central or specifically a South American player, you're probably pretty frustrated by this, and I don't blame you, and I certainly don't want to sound ignorant, and I am ignorant, so I'll just say that. But I don't know the logistics of trying to host an event and where you would in South America. There are some tumultuous situations, and I know that to speak very politically, I know that Brazil's in the similar leadership situation to that we are currently, which is super friendly. So I don't know, maybe if it's just not there. Now, I don't know why they couldn't be in Central America. We've had a number of GPs in like Mexico City. So at least go there. And it's not like we don't have GPs in with Sao Paulo is pretty consistent. But I will say that those generally have most social media feedback from those, especially the last few years, has been not great. Just on access even for players in that region. So I don't know that I'm necessarily going to super fault WotC for this. We could argue maybe more effectively that like the one in Minnesota maybe should just be in Canada. Maybe just go a little bit further north.
Yeah.
Like that would be fair. And I said I don't see why we couldn't get. I think Phoenix is their attempt to be like, look, we're in the South. Like I guess, but even there, like I don't know. Maybe just go to. I don't know what's an easier access point. Regardless, again, I'm speaking from a place of ignorance here. I want you to understand this, but I do think that it's probably difficult to find a good spot. And again, like I think just like you see this in Europe too, like they tend to pick and favor certain places once they know they can navigate travel in those places, the laws in those places, the prizes in those places. So I don't want to assume like super negative intent here, but I also understand that if you're a player in South America, like this is frustrating, and I can't blame you for that either. I don't know what the perfect fix is.
Yeah, so the American locations are Phoenix, Houston. So Phoenix, Houston, Charlotte, Minneapolis, Washington, and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like we don't know how to run large events. Like,
no, I've never, and certainly not international anything.
Yeah, obviously, and I think like it's disappointing because you definitely have a lot of very like prominent good players that are hailing from like Central and South America.
Absolutely.
And to them, and to not have like their, not to have those countries like highlighted in Magic in such a, in such a big prominent manner when you're actually like, regionalizing these pretty big important tournaments. And to be like, well, we're just like regionalizing means like, we're going to have 3 regions. It's going to be North America, like the United States of America. And then, we have the European region and the Asia Pacific region. And like, that's really the regions. And I understand like, it's definitely not as easy to run those tournaments in those areas as we've seen by the lack of tournaments in those areas in the first place.
Yeah.
Like there has to be like a reason why. And I guess conjecture would be that they are more difficult to run. And while there are difficulties, I think like for your community, I think making an effort is something that they should have done. At the very least, like I said in the show chat, like throw Canada a bone. Like,
yeah, that's why it's certainly like U.S. centric, and that can seem very rough. And I don't disagree with people for being frustrated by that. But again, I'm not gonna fault a company for who is also gonna like simultaneously run events around the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand. I don't know. That's a more nuanced issue that can have a strong opinion on. That's where I stand on it. I understand if you are yelling into the void about this because you wanted one in Central or South America, I don't blame you. You know what I mean? I don't blame you, but I also am not upset at WotC about this. And that's easy for me to say as one, a person who won't be playing on this tour, and 2, who lives in Ohio.
Yes, those are very, very true and real facts. It's also interesting to point out that the Asia Pacific player tours, we have 2 in Japan and then 1 in Sydney. So obviously with things going on in the turmoil in like China and things like that, they have decided to really avoid going anywhere near that sort of zone. It seems like.
I think that's fair. Here's what I will say. I'm just glad that for criticizing them for putting all the one in the Americas there. I'm glad that like we didn't go like, here's the one for the Americas, and here's Asia Pacific. One of them's in Hawaii. That's the Pacific, right? Like, so I'm glad we didn't do that at least.
Yeah, that would have been not great. So, as far as like the Magic Fest, there are ones. There are some that are pretty all around as far as that goes.
I think it's a pretty stout list too. I think for people who are worried they might cut back because of dwindling event attendance. I think like the Commander Fests and these side events, and honestly, Morgan, I'm sorry, but secret boosters have still like you still have a large amount of people there, and I think they're going to continue to focus more on the event nature of it and continue to focus less on the GP part of it. But for those who are worried that maybe this meant like a diminishing amount of Magic Fest, that's a pretty stout schedule.
Yeah. For sure. There is one in Columbus this time around. Don't know what format it's going to be just quite yet. But
I'm not going to lie. I skipped the first two sections of it, but my wife is doing March, so I was like, whoop, not going to look at any of these. And I saw Columbus in August, and I was like, okay, maybe I could get to that one.
See you sneak out for a quick draft or a side event. You know. So that's everything for the community segment. Before we jump into competitive, we do want to give a quick shout out to our lovely sponsor, Comic Town. They're going to be hosting Star City Games, the Star City Games Regional Championship for our region. It's going to be this Saturday, October 19th. It's going to be at the Courtyard Columbus West. Again, the event is capped at 300 players, and pre-registration is strongly encouraged.
I wasn't going to change that for you. You needed to have that.
It's a 10 a.m. players meeting, and the event cost is $40, and it will be modern. So make sure you do pre-register for that event. You can find pre-registration details at worldofcomictown.com.
Yeah, I should have. I was there today. I should have asked Ryan about what the pre-order is at, but it's definitely always a well run, and that's the venue that's off of. Is that off Roberts? Is that the one that we normally go to that has the Waffle House there?
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, good venue and always a good time. I haven't decided if I'm going to go yet or not. There's some factors playing on that this weekend, one of them being that it is modern.
It's true.
But others is just like I have some things I need to get done.
Yeah.
How about you? You think about going to that?
Well, that's my wedding anniversary.
So. Oh, shoot. I know that. I was at that wedding.
You were.
I won't be at that anniversary, though.
I hope not.
That would be awkward.
But no, I will be celebrating my wedding anniversary with my wife.
Nice.
And
your wife.
My wife. And plus, like...
still funny.
It's modern, so, like, pass. Like,
Yeah, Dave, former host of the show, was asking me, he's like, hey, so if you go, what will you play? And I was like, I don't know. I could play one of these. Like, I could play Burn. I could play Grixis Death Shadow. I still have that sweet Bant Stoneblade deck that's, like, sleeved up. And, like... whatever. Who cares what modern looks like? I might just go do that. Like, at least I'll have fun.
That's true. So, for competitive, we did want to obviously talk about the Mythic Championship 5. That's the arena-only Mythic Championship that's going to be happening this weekend. And we already have deck lists. These are submitted ahead of time and are released ahead of time, obviously. And it paints a picture. It paints a picture of Standard that some people may not like, and maybe some of the reason why some people are saying that the move up of the ban restricted announcement is a sure thing to see something being banned. And really, it's the heavy presence of banned Golos, or Golos Field of the Dead decks in general. I think you said there were 29 out of 68.
Yes. So I went through and counted because I was on my phone and didn't have the Control F function. But then I saw on Twitter that if you Control F for field, you get 30. But then you have to minus Seth Manfield. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, 29 of the 68. So it comes out to about 43% are some variant of a Golos deck.
Whether that be Banned Golos or Golos Fires.
Correct. And like Golos Fires even can be like 3, 4, 5 colors. It just depends.
Yes.
So,
and then we also have a bunch of variations of, not a bunch of but like either blue-green X food,
or blue-green ramp, right?
Yeah, or blue-green ramp, or Bant ramp without with Golos, I guess. I don't know.
That's more of the focus on like Nissas and playing your 8 3-mana planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So,
first of all, people have already noted that there is a lot of green, like
yes,
a lot of green in these deck lists. I think an overwhelming percentage of like decks are playing forests, and this is surprising to me. They like WotC has continually pushed green to just be like the best color that you could really be playing. And this has kind of led us to here, where you take a look in a lot of just the best creatures are obviously green, but a lot of the best, like a lot of the best planeswalkers, a lot of the best cantrips. You have like Once Upon a Time being the most played card, because it's just free, or is exactly what you want to be doing in the decks that you're playing in.
100%.
Right? And then you have like again Hydroid Crassus as just being like a problem.
Yeah,
a problem.
So when we talk about like cards to look at, I think like if we're getting this moved up ban to restricted list, the obvious card you want to look at is Field of the Dead. If you don't Field of the Dead, Golos is I think a fine card because you have utility lands in the form of the castles, but they don't do anything on their own powerful enough to justify what Field of the Dead does. There's not. We talked last week a lot about this. And we asked, like, was it going to be a problem? And Watsy seems to agree.
Yeah.
But just no clean answer to Field of the Dead says that's a problem. But if you even look at this metagame here and you take away Field of the Dead, so you take away all the Golos decks, the Bant, like, how many of them just immediately become Bant ramp? Hydra Crisis may be a problem. And I'll be honest, I go back, you can go listen to our Palooza on that. I was pretty low on that card. Then I started casting that card, and I was wrong. But that card really didn't take off until Nissa.
Yeah.
Until we had Nissa, and that's the deck that I played at the MCQ that I just missed on breakers for top 8, and hadn't really played anything outside of red and standard. And I was like, oh, I just want to try this, and it was just like, oh, this is bonkers. This is and like half the decks in the other majority deck is just doing that. They just want to make big Hydro Crises. So when you look at like Field of the Dead as a problem, but when you look at granted we only have 68 decks, so when you look at something like 70% of decks, it's not as huge as maybe a larger event. But man, anytime a card's to 70%, anytime like a color is that saturated, you've got to take a look. So I could see again swift action because Chase Andres, who I mentioned a lot, and it's behind a paywall. He's worth it he literally is the reason I pay for premium because I don't play a lot of competitive right now. But I like his articles. Mm-hmm. He spoke to the nature of like WotC bannings, especially when you look at standard. So like when they banned the last standard bannings, like as well, we also got that random like Ferocidon ban as well. Like they tried to ban and predict the format afterwards. So I could see something like a Hydra Crisis if they decided that like once Golos is gone, it's just going to be these Nissa decks. You know what I mean? He posits, and I think I agree with that you're not going to ban the Planeswalkers. They're not banning Oko. You know what I mean? Like, which probably isn't the problem with those decks. Like, it's good, but it's not that.
Yeah,
you're not banning.
People are in love with the Oko.
I'm in love with the Oko. They are not banning Teferi because they didn't ban Big Teferi. Like, they're not going to ban Little Teferi. And they're probably going to ban Nissa. You know what I mean? Like, it's a Gatewatch character. So, like, it's much easier for them to ban the jellyfish monster that doesn't have an emotional attachment to it. So, but I could see, like, them banning, like, Field of the Dead and then, like, banning something like Hydra Crisis right along with it just to be like, hey, this is how it's going to be. Especially if they're using that updated ban list to, like, rip the Band-Aid off the format. Just, like, don't chance there being a problem again afterwards. Let the format, flesh itself out, because right now it's not. It's being dominated.
Yeah.
Now
I know that the Arena Decklist podcast they went over all of the lists, which we certainly will not do. I can only talk about Golos decks about this much. But they said that if the people submitting decks had a little bit more time before they had to submit their lists, they would have potentially seen changes within the format. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I would have to have like a pretty hard argument to be like, my deck is just consistently better at like defeating the Bankolos list.
I think I would have agreed with that if I'd ever seen one of the aggressive decks really take a hold. Yeah. Now, granted, I've been slumming it in gold, just playing like Golos Flyers, and I keep switching back to Phoenix just because I like playing the deck. And I got the whatever the shiny version of the Royal Scions.
Oh yeah.
And I was kind of like looking at it on Arena. So like, but like none of the aggressive decks have truly been able to take hold. And I think when you look at these, like there's a couple of interesting decks, and I think there's a card we should at least talk about that does seem to be offering a bit of a headache for the Golos decks. And a couple of players have identified that, and maybe that'll be good enough for them. and I think you're going to be happy to talk about this card.
Oh, it's
Embercleave.
Yeah.
So let's at least take a look at Caleb Durwood's list, because that man's a hero, and he submitted Jund midrange. And his Jund midrange deck is Growth Chamber Guardian, Rixmati Reveler, Bone Crusher Giant, Gruul Spellbreaker, Rotting Regisaur, 4 Questing Beast, a Shifting Ceratops, 4 Skargan Hellkite, 3 Collision Colossus, 3 Embercleave. Now, I don't like Rotting Regisaur, but if that thing's holding an Embercleave, I love Rotting Regisaur.
That's a big dinosaur with I assume a sword in its mouth. I assume that's how he has the whole.
Yeah, 100%. He just does like a cool spin jump, like just. I think we talked about like trying to identify like if you can find the right tempo point with the right interaction, you can beat the Golos decks before like the turn they resolve their Golos. You know what I mean, or their fires or whatever else. If you can interact with that card, or you can get ahead there, you have a window before they start to take over the game.
Yeah.
But like discard spells, we saw Drill Bit a little bit, but that's fallen out of favor immediately because there's a lot of power in those decks. So the game now is your interaction is make them have it. And if you're if you're just like here's all these things, and then Embercleave just changes the clock.
Yeah,
that seems pretty powerful. Questing Beast is already pretty good against those decks. Mm-hmm. Tokens don't block very well, and Golos can't do much against it. So I like that plan. But there's also a couple of players who submitted Mardu Knights, also playing a bunch of Embercleave. So this is Ben Stark, Eric Froelich, and Ken Yukihiro. And when those are the 3 names that have submitted that deck, it does make me think maybe there's something. Though Mardu, like looking at the mana base, does not make me happy.
Oh, it's rough.
But it gets to play Tournament Grounds.
Yeah, I mean, like that's your fixer. It can cast almost everything in your deck.
Just not Legion's End.
Yes, that's it. So like almost. And I don't think it can't cast Iconic Ancestor. Nope, it can't.
Yeah,
it just makes colorless.
I'm like, yeah, it definitely does.
It definitely can.
I think that is interesting. But and you look at this. 4 Fervent Champion, 4 Knight of the Even Blade, 4 Venerable Knight, 4 Weaselback Redcap. You may have to look at what that does. It has fire breathing.
It has
big fire breathing.
Yeah.
Blacklands Paragon, Inspiring Veteran, Acclaimed Contender, which I know is a card that Morgan likes, and Midnight Reaper. But this deck is just trying to like make a swarm. Fervent Champion attacks pretty well early on and like helps things. Knight of the Even Legion, even though Vampires isn't strong, like that was the best one drop in that deck by far, and it's still great here. It presents a real problem for a lot of blocks, and I think its ability plays super well with Embercleave because you have an excuse to have that mana sitting there, and like so your opponent now has to question like, okay, if I make these blocks, are they pumping this or am I getting Embercleaved? Yeah. And I think that's a good play pattern. Other than that, though, a lot of these creatures are outright terrible.
Oh, for sure.
And if you do not win the early game, if you do not bust through with an Embercleave quickly enough, you are never top decking out of this. Like, you were never once. I will be honest. I do not understand the one Icon of Ancestry at all. Because it does not feel like the card I want here. Maybe I'm crazy. I said these are good players who submitted it. But this is pretty terrifying. It's interesting, though. I do like the Force Spectre streak in the sideboard.
Yeah,
that's an interesting one. And one other card that I definitely called out before, and I love playing. I played a lot in Brawl.
Oh, it's Tectonic
Rift. I said before that's a legitimate play for these aggressive decks because it can buy you a turn. So I'm excited to see that. But I think like this is what the aggressive decks look at. We have Li Tian playing Cavalcade. The aggressive decks are not good. Like, and then you have immediately after that you go to mid-range decks, which are all adventures decks. Which I think the adventures decks are certainly card advantage engines, but I still don't think they consistently actually go over the Golos decks well enough or the Bant Ramp decks. So, maybe Mardu Knights is a real thing. Maybe that Jund mid-range deck is. I don't know what the best shell is, but it does seem, or it could be Gruul aggro. We've talked about that deck, but I do think like. Enough people have hit on Embercleave as an answer, which that makes me happy because one, we haven't had an equipment be good enough in a while.
That's true.
And I love what Embercleave is doing. I think it's a really sweet design, and I'm glad to see. Like, I don't think it's a good enough answer to fix the format by itself.
No,
but I think it's it's exciting that those players turn to that as opposed to just playing Golos. So I'm excited to see some Rotting Regisaurs do spin kicks.
Yeah,
this weekend.
The wielding their swords in their tiny little hands. Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm rooting for Caleb Durward. I know he was a special invite, and he used it to bring something different and crush him.
I'm rooting for any Embercleave deck. Just want that card to keep on winning.
One last deck I want to mention quickly is Miguel de Cruz Simoes, the Rakdos Sacrifice deck. I've played against this on Arena a couple times. It is playing the actual like Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven package.
Yeah, this is a list that has. I think it's one of the lists that people are saying like this could be something that competes. Right.
I don't disagree. I think there's some numbers things here I'm not a big fan of. I think Claim the Firstborn is cute in what you're trying to do, but I don't think it's probably good enough against like the Bant food deck that you want it, but it's a bad card against. It's just bad against the Golos decks. It really is.
Now, what if
the only thing I will say is it does let you kill them with their giant Hydra Crisis,
but it also lets you kill people with the Embercleave wielding Rotting Regisaur.
That is true. That if you didn't already die to it, that is true.
Yeah.
So I do think that Ongroth's Rampage is a card I'm not super excited about.
I can see that.
I don't know. Having played against it a couple of times, I don't know where its place is in the format. The food decks have lots of extra creatures, and like, yes, it's good to be able to interact with the 3-drop planeswalkers, but if they ever get both of them out, then like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think edicts are great right now. So that's my PSA. Like I'd rather have just looking at the format large, like I think I'd rather have shock.
Yeah.
Like something that increases my clock, something that kills the innkeeper.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because their package does not kill the innkeeper. It just does not.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think like that's what makes those adventure decks even viable. So people aren't gunning for them.
Well, yeah, and it's literally they're not gunning for them. People aren't playing shock or disfigure. We said this last week, and they get to use. They're all using 4 copies of Once Upon a Time to like their odds of seeing a turn 1 innkeeper are pretty good with that deck. And if it stays alive, then yeah, a deck like this is not going to make up its value in with the oven, no matter how good of a cook you are. So, but I think like it's important when you look at the format, like how low these decks are trying to go now. Like, there's a single copy of Rankle on the sideboard. Like, without that was going to be like the red black aggro deck was going to have Spawn of Mayhem and Rankle, and nope, because they're just not good enough by the time they come online. So awkward format.
It's interesting because like. Obviously, they made Field of the Dead because they wanted Scapeshift to do something.
Yeah.
But I just like I still don't know how you miss like the power that you're putting into like all of these cards, and you think people not like identify it. Like I don't understand like where they thought like, oh well, once Scapeshift leaves, like no one's gonna want to do like have this strategy.
I think, and I don't think this is an excuse, but I think where they may have missed is. They wanted Gates to be a playable deck because Gates was a viable deck in a different form than when they did Gates the first time. So they wanted Gates to be viable. So you end up with these cards that are Gate centric. So you're incentivized to play these lands, and Circuitous Route being then the biggest guilty party. Because Circuitous Route is what lets that deck with the Fires deck. Like the best play that deck has is a turn 3 Fires. Because you've played a Growth Spiral or something else.
Yeah.
That is then immediately, like, you go Fires, Circuitous Route. And when you untap, you can cast everything in your deck.
Yeah.
And like, Circuitous Route lets them not only go and, like, fix their mana, but because it lets them get gates when you're talking about Field of the Dead, now it's super easy to hit all your colors and to have a bunch of different named lands. And I think, like, they just didn't maybe see I want Gates to be viable because the Gates deck was viable. We had the Archway Angel, Gateway, Colossus. Like that deck was viable and could maybe still be viable at some point. But I think by making that deck viable and by making the fixing for that deck, I don't know how well they tested that with Field, and that I think is where the problem is.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I still think like regardless of this format. I still think that one card that's going to cause a lot of issues is still going to be a little Teferi.
I don't disagree. It changes the way the format works entirely. I don't disagree at all.
I think like if that card didn't exist, it may give other archetypes room to like exist or breathe. And I think like that, I think we have a hard time not just like getting completely like swept up in a different in an archetype and it being overwhelming because we don't have a proper balance of like deck representation, right?
Right.
And I think like Teferi just like suppresses that. And even when early in the format when there was like a little bit of hope of it not being like as omnipresent, it clearly showed itself to be something that like a lot of decks just are going to want due to its versatility. It has like 2 activated abilities, but it just still is so versatile at what it does. And I just think that card like it's just it not allowing like an entire archetype to really truly exist, in my opinion, really hurts the format as a whole. Like I think like we could actually have a sort of genuine metagame that isn't just like I don't know. I really feel like if you had like an actual control deck, an actual counterspell based control deck, like these Golos decks would be a lot harder to like a lot harder to be successful.
I mean, I don't disagree, but
then you'd have to have like Teferi not in the Golos decks. And it's just like
Teferi is not the reason that there's a control deck, though. Teferi is not the reason there's not a control deck. That is the reason not a control deck.
Sure,
we talked about this last week. Like you can't. It doesn't matter how many counterspells you play. Like your opponents will just draw and play.
Yeah, they just have inevitability.
You know what I mean? So like, and you can't interact with their lands, so it doesn't matter. So Teferi is not the reason not a control deck. Field of the Dead is the reason.
Yeah, but I think like if Field of the Dead goes away, then like Teferi then is now the reason we don't have a control deck.
Maybe.
You know?
I mean, you had pure Esper control before, with Teferi was just as dominating in the format. It's very possible that's true. But I think like right now, and again, maybe Teferi is the card that gets a snipe like on the other side. It's certainly possible. There's a lot of other good 3-mana planeswalkers we could turn to right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like gosh.
It's tough.
War of the Spark was a mistake.
I think like it's definitely showing that this format is going to be hard to balance as it goes on. I think like definitely having a surplus of very good planeswalkers is detrimental to a format. I think that's probably safe to say. So I'm interested to see what Monday brings. I'm not so interested in necessarily watching the Mythic Championship 5, but I'm interested in seeing like what actually happens with these decks. I mean, I'm wondering if the results of this weekend will actually have an effect one way or another, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's fair.
But to move on to a different problematic format, let's talk about Modern. So there was the Star City Games Open in Indianapolis this weekend. It was won by Drake Sasser playing Gifts Storm, defeating William Pulliam playing Amulet Titan in the finals. So 2 fairly linear decks, if had to say so myself. Pretty straightforward kind of strategies, even if they're both I would say they're both kind of difficult to play. Like Amulet Titan obviously needs a lot of like concentration and like awareness of like plays and lines to win games in like weird situations. And Gift Storm obviously requires a lot of counting. No, just kidding. It requires obviously like a lot of skill in similar fashion to like people are going to try to disrupt you. So what are you going to do to counter their disruption, right? But it's been a while since we've seen Storm. And we do see like a transition into like I know that he was playing maybe I'm wrong. Aria Flame in the sideboard. There he is. So that's what I was looking for. That was main deck, but the sideboard. As being a 4 of, as probably being a replacement for Pyromancer's Ascension. And obviously, like that's a card that had a lot of attention and then has fallen off since we got the banning of
Faithless Looting.
There we go.
There you go.
I banned it from my memory.
Be gone.
Be gone, Faithless Looting. But Storm isn't a blue-red deck that played that. It played the other cantrips. The other card draw spells, what have you, and it's something that if you aren't respecting it, it can just cut through a tournament like this. I don't necessarily know if there's anything super like revolutionary about this particular list. He is playing like Birch and Scroll, which is maybe a little bit different than previous lists. I don't know if I've always seen that, but I know it's an option they obviously have. And then Aria of Flame is the big new add, and as well as Mystic Dispute as being a new get from Eldraine. And like that's not surprising. Like that card is Pyroblast, right? Or red and blue, I forget which one. It's has that effect. It
costs less if it targets blue spells, but it's still just mana leak. So like I was calling out Pyroblast, I don't think works so well. It's not a hard counter, but it's better than like in counter wars. It's definitely better than Spell Pierce.
Yes.
So
now as far as Amulet Titan is concerned, obviously they're going to take advantage of the new the castle Garenbrig. This is a way to make a turn 3 Titan. And obviously any deck that plays Primeval Titan is like, okay, I want those, so I'm going to be playing them. But I don't think there's really anything else here that Once Upon a Time. That's the other one. That's right. Obviously, this is another deck where like Once Upon a Time makes absolute sense.
Yep.
It gets you the things you want. It gets you your Titans.
I can play more Ancient Stirrings.
Obviously it's not going to get your Amulet of Vigors. Like that's a big miss, but it gets all of your lands, which is 100%. You have
and it gets
28 of them, and it gets Titan. It also gets like don't even like.
I'm not discrediting anything.
Yeah, don't discredit
obscene.
Like getting a Souza.
It's obscene.
And Sakura Tribe. I guess Sakura Tribe Scout's probably like the least spicy one,
especially since the way this deck operates. If it doesn't have an Amulet on turn 1, then like there's a good chance it doesn't need to cast its first spell until it's like turn 2 or when it tries to go. So like you have time to just be like, still keep your free spell pocketed and be like, oop, gonna do this now, then I'll take my turn.
For sure.
A number of these, like the third place list is playing Oko in the sideboard. Oko's getting a lot of sideboard play because it's in a lot of the Urza decks as well.
Interesting.
I mean, it seems like a fine answer to a lot of problematic like creatures. Like it's just an easy way to turn off like creatures that have an effect. It's an easy way to gain life.
So, like, you have, like, a giant Death Shadow, and you're like, oh, cool, it's a 3/3 now.
It's a 3/3 now. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a nice Tarmogoyf you have.
It's a 3/3 now.
It's an elk.
That's a nice Primeval Titan you have. It's 3/3 now. And I think, like, against the burn decks, especially when you play this on turn 2, and you're just like, oh, make food. And then, like, again, every single turn, you are negating their best top deck. And they've got to use 2 of their spells to kill your Oko.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
That's some messed up stuff right there.
And if you couldn't kill Oko immediately, you'll never kill Oko.
Oh.
And you will never raise... Like, they don't have to do anything else. Just make food. Like, unless you have a super creature-heavy draw.
just make food and leave mana open. Whew.
Neat.
That is something.
Yeah, Oko good.
In fourth place, we do have Bird, piloted by Brian.
Yeah, well done. Brian
Carey. I was talking to Mike about this a little bit. Like, Burden is just something that always kind of exists in the format. It has varying levels of, like, good or bad, but it's just kind of always there.
Yeah.
We also have Jund Death Shadow. I know that...
Jonathan Hobbs.
Jonathan Hobbs, piloting it. And I know that...
this is a Traverse build.
Yes, I know that Dave has been a big fan of these as of late, so...
The Traverse build lets you do some cool things. Obviously, Plague Engineer has been a popular sideboard card. Traverse means that you can bring your own border copy in and have a ton. The same is true for Fulminator Mage and Collector Oof. Yep. So, that's interesting.
Did you already say Plague Engineer?
Yes, it is. That was the first one I said.
I missed the first one you said.
Do you want to roll back the tape? Or?
No, I asked, all right? I didn't say that you didn't say it. I asked.
The sixth place list is a deck that I have mentioned a couple of times, making a pretty big debut here in the top 8 with Urza Ascendancy, which is a version of the Paradoxical Outcome deck that also plays Jeskai Ascendancy. This deck is oops all combos.
Oh, and look, it has a new Modern Horizons card and Mirrodin Besiege.
Oh yeah, it's just an extra win condition. The best part is you can play it. So essentially, you can play it as Mirren, and then it's just another copy of Sai.
Yeah.
Right? Or after you've gone off with your Ascendancy,
you just bounce it back.
You just win that turn. Well, you discard. So Ascendancy makes you discard. So you can actually win with, if you're comboing off, you can just win with, like, if you can't attack, you can just go to your end step and say, look, there's 20 artifacts in my graveyard. I win the game.
Well, I mean, you have to reset it somehow or play another one, right? Because you choose.
Well, what I'm saying is quite literally you don't have to.
Oh, either.
Like you draw it while you're comboing.
Yeah.
So
I gotcha.
This is just oops all combos. You have Saheeli's here to make more tokens. Obviously, you have 4 copies of Urza. You have your paradoxical outcomes. Like, this deck's absurd. And like, if I actually had the ability to play this deck at regional, this is probably the deck I'd say just to play. Like, I would
just play because of Jeskai Ascendancy.
I love Jeskai Ascendancy. Even if I feel like a villain for playing it, I love Jeskai Ascendancy.
I mean, I can't believe like 4 Mox Opals is nearly $500.
Yeah, I have like the mana base of this deck, and I have the Jeskai Ascendancies. That's it.
I'm sure we could find Mirrodin Besieged for you.
Yep.
Witching Well we got.
I've got Astrolabes. And Mishra's Baubles.
Yep. Chalice, yeah.
Yeah.
I have Engineered Explosives.
I have at least one.
Outcomes.
Nah, I'm not doing this. But also a bunch of Okos in the sideboard. So, and Weather the Storm. Told you. Oh, look, there's finally a Sunforge Mystic deck right there next to the Thought-Knot Seers, where it's supposed to be.
It's proper home.
Gosh, man, Modern was so full of promise when they unbanned Sunforge Mystic.
I mean,
that first week was just
the best thing you can say. Hey, it's not burning the format down.
Yeah, you're right. There's just another Modern Horizons card that probably needs banned.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll be to be fair. I don't know that banning Urza actually fixes the new problem. Like, I think Emery, Jeskai Ascendancy, and Paradoxical Outcome is a good enough deck by itself.
Maybe. Maybe.
So,
yeah.
I think it's just time to get rid of Mox Opal.
Yep. I don't disagree with you.
That could also be the Monday banning, and I would be fine with it. Now, granted, I say that as a person who wouldn't lose hundreds of dollars on that.
Hey,
don't get me wrong.
I'm a person that if you are concerned about having hundreds of dollars invested in your Magic cards, you probably shouldn't play Magic. I don't know.
That's not fair.
I guess, but it's not like a stable. It's like it's an investment theoretically, right?
I think like if you're the person who's had Mox Opals forever, like that it doesn't matter. Like you've more than gotten the value out of what those cards are. Like it's not. But I do think that like if you're the person who's like, I really like this deck, it is a good deck. Possibly some version of Urza is the best deck in Modern. Can you fault someone for wanting to buy into that? What if they bought their Mox Opals like last week, and then 2 days later, WotC's like, "We are moving up the ban restriction announcement," and you're like, "But I just clicked order on Mox Opals."
I would sell those Mox Opals.
But then, like, if you didn't, then like you just like lost money either way. I can't blame people for that.
So here's the thing, like, I think if you're gonna make that decision, like that's a costly decision, right?
It is.
I think you have to be educated about that too, though.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I think if you do your research, be like, but just search around, like listen to read some articles, listen to people, listen to how many times people have said like, hey, we need to ban Mox Opal, and be like, this card is clearly on some sort of watch list, even if it's not a public one. Like, you got to realize
to the post office. Next to all like the mug shots are just like
your wanted papers.
Like, what is this, a piece of jewelry? Like, what? Trust us.
Trust us. It's dangerous.
Dangerous. It's so shiny.
I think like if you're gonna make that investment, I think you have to be aware of like you can't be ignorant of history.
No. Of course not.
Like there have been highly expensive cards that have just also been like, we need to ban this.
Yeah, I get it. I really do, but I don't know. I still not gonna be like, I'm not gonna be upset at somebody for like them being sad. Like, oh.
No, and my argument is literally just only buy the cheapest decks because they'll never get banned. And even if they do, who cares?
Isn't that the cry in the shower argument of buying decks? Like, yes. That way they never see you crying. Yeah, like,
correct. You buy Mono Red Prowess, and then you cry in the shower when they ban Faithless Looting.
Yeah, 100%.
Because then you're like, none of my cards are worth anything anymore. They weren't worth anything to begin with.
No, there was only 3 cards in the deck that were worth money, and it was Manamorphose, Arclight Phoenix, and Finale of Devastation.
Finale of Promise.
Promise. I don't give a poop. I almost did it. I almost did a cuss.
You almost did. I would have had to do some of these lovely sound effects that we have loaded in.
What
Actually,
what do we
one
got
of them
over
is an
there?
air horn and then
That's
applause
too
and
loud.
laughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not great.
We should at least mention also Dredge in top 8, because it's not playing the blue like Tome Scour or whatever. It's actually playing a new card. It's playing Throne of Eldraine's Merchant of the Veil, as it's now 1 mana discard outlet.
Oh, I mean, okay.
So I think it's interesting. Definitely top 8'd, and like this main deck looks super like underpowered to me without Faithless Looting and still top 8'd. So that tells you that Dredge still does Dredge things.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And like, this is, it's obviously what you want, being able to discard and then draw. It's very similar to the other mono red, like 1-drop.
It's also kind of nice because it gives you something to do, like even like on turn 3 with your mana. There's a lot of turns in the mid game where like the deck's not maybe always using its mana, especially without being able to flashback Faithless Looting. And like having that ability stapled to a creature like is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it lets you more easily technically while it's in play, because it's its activated ability lets you dredge on your opponent's turns. So you can trigger that's a corner case scenario because like you've cast a 2/3 and like untapped with it. So like you're either winning that game or your creature's irrelevant. But like it's still a thing you can do.
Just outside of the top 8 9th place, we do have a devoted devastation list that is also playing Once Upon a Time, and we're quickly seeing how
free spells really good.
How much of this is actually taking not over the format, but being a part of it, right?
Look at the spell suite in this deck: 4 Postmortem Lunge, 4 Latimer's Call, 4 Finale of Devastation, 4 Once Upon a Time, 3 Eldritch Evolution. Gross.
I think you could find stuff in that deck. If I'm not mistaken,
you can find things. You can bring them back from. Bring them back from any zone.
Just everywhere. Creatures coming out of exile,
in your hand,
exile.
No problem. In your deck, no problem. Dead, no problem. So I should also point out how many of these decks are playing multiple copies of Veil of Summer, which is a $6 or $7 uncommon from M20. I had one, so I was happy about that. So
I picked up some for Tron, actually. So
that's a good call.
I have 3 now. I'm okay with owning 3 $6 to $7 uncommons.
Speaking of Tron, it's in 11th place. Mono Green Tron, Lance Cop with only 3 copies.
Only
of
3. Couldn't find the room for the 4th.
This is the Karn the Great creator build, though. So
I think that's been pretty much the default build at this point in time.
That makes sense.
I think like people have given up on like no great creator and just been like playing the sideboard.
And I think that's important when you look at like having some main deck game against like some of these Urza decks. Like granted, Urza negates some of that, but it is more difficult to go off. Shout out to Kyle Bogamus for trying to make Azorius Stoneblade a thing. I appreciate that, and maybe that's the deck I'll be looking at for this weekend. I just want to play Stoneforge Mystic. But like, here's where you have 3 Teferi Time Raveler and 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor. I think Force Negation was a card that overperformed for me in first event was an MCQ or whatever it was. That I played and like if you look at this format at large, I could see it still being pretty good. Amulet Titan throws a little bit of a wrench into that because they just cast Primeval Titan. Force Negation looks sad, but otherwise I like what it's doing here. So some interesting cards in the sideboard here. Look at that Gideon Ally of Zendikar make an appearance. Hey bud, been a while. So Humans is in top 16.
Yeah, Noah Miller having a pretty interesting build, playing Charming Prince in the main deck, and I think that card is pretty alright. It's obviously modal, can do a lot of things. Pretty great to have a human that gains you 3 life, and can like theoretically blink another one when it comes in, and like do some shenanigans there, reset something. Blink a Casting Malcontents, which is pretty cool.
Blink a Reflector Mage is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Blink a Thalia's Tenant's pretty cool. Reset a Meddling Mage.
Yeah. Don't try to blink your Phantasmal Image. Not going to work out for you.
Bad. That's
a bad move right there.
And the fact that you can hold this up with Flash technically off your Aether Vial is really solid.
Yeah, and you know what? Scry 2
not the worst.
Is good. Is really good in a deck like Humans, where you just never want to run into like a land pocket or anything
if you're just
like that.
Curving this creature out, like if you're like champion into this on an average draw, it's still fine.
Oh yeah, 100%. So I like this edition. I still think like I wouldn't want to bring Humans into any sort of format like this. So more power to you.
Me neither. I will say maybe it's good enough against the Urza decks. Meddling Mage is pretty solid against those decks. They don't have a lot of interaction points. They also just make a bunch of tokens. So maybe it's just not true.
Yeah, but you have Deputies of Detention in the sideboard.
Those are helpful.
Like that is helpful. But I think you're making the tournament hard for yourself.
Speaking of making the tournament hard for yourself, David Green playing Esper Gorios in the top 16.
Listen,
these decks are just crazy to me, but by all means, you do.
Some people just want to cast the Obsidat.
Yeah, that's fine.
I guess you're not casting; you're bringing it back from the graveyard. But whatever.
I mean, you might cast it. Sometimes you just do cast it.
Okay, sometimes.
But it was.
I mean, I've played that card plenty of times. So
Borio's Vengeance also in the top 32. Being 4 copies of Merchant of the Veil. All right, Generator Servant. Yes,
that's how you get that haste.
Man, seeing these decks exist without like Faithless Looting is wild to me. So
yeah, Merchant of the Veil is like, ooh, that's not a great replacement. Instant speed's nice. Like obviously, like that's okay. That's an upside. But man,
it's got Quicksilver Amulet in the sideboard. This deck's sweet.
Just get him with that amulet. Like, gotcha.
Oh man,
Sunlane Emrakul.
There's an Elves. There you go. Shout out to Brian Dawes.
Look, Brian, you can play Elves in this format. You probably. I don't know.
It's not good. He's got Westville Abbey though. So, oh my gosh, they're playing Stay in the Mind.
Yeah, they convoke, man.
That's great.
They can easily cast that one.
It's just cute. Elves are cute.
Elves are cute. I don't disagree. I don't know. What's your like? We're going into obviously the regional, so there's going to be a lot of tournaments, a lot of Modern getting played. Modern isn't a format. It's not like we're not going to see like a huge skew like we see with Standard, right? We're not just going to see a bunch of players flock to like the Golos, right? That's not how Modern works. It's more expensive. You can't just suddenly fold into another deck.
I think that's what's scary about seeing how many like outcome decks are. Even looking at the Classic, like Urza Outcomes 3 of the top 8 decks. I get frustrated because we if you listen to this cast, you've listened to us for any amount of time, we're nearing episode 300. We are turning the actual dust into our microphones.
That's true.
We're big champions of Modern. We've been champions of Modern since the beginning of the format. Why we aren't called Champions of Modern, I don't know. There probably is a podcast called Champions of Modern. If there is, your podcast has a great name.
You're welcome.
But
we already bought like a bunch of playmats to say at your end stuff. So.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think that it's been harder and harder over the last year to be a defender of that format. And like I found decks that I've liked and honestly loved, and I'll love again. But
it's hard. It's hard to open yourself back up.
But I think like as a person who like enjoyed playing like Mono Red Phoenix, like I can't argue that like Faithless Looting wasn't doing harmful things to the format. I think it was allowing fair things too, and I think it's sad that we're going to lose out on like some versions of Phoenix and some obviously like Mardu Pyromancer like is a deck we lose. And like when we lose those decks where we talked a lot about like the Phoenix decks having some saturation point that was high for a while, but at the end of the day it was the kind of Magic that like looks like Magic. Players casting spells and attacking with creatures. And the same Phoenix may not do fair things consistently, but it was still casting spells. You still had to attack with creatures. And like Mardu Pyromancer was just, I think, a pretty fair deck. You know what I mean? And we've lost these fair decks off of it, in addition to some other decks. But man, like here's Dredge top 8ing both of these events without Faithless Looting. We lose fair decks, but Dredge stays just as strong. Yeah. We get rid of Hogak, which was important because it was not a fair deck. But then we see another Modern Horizons card just step up and make these outcome decks are disgusting. They're disgusting. And we once again, like it's frustrating to watch the slow march of artifact decks that all have Opal. Sometimes it's Ancient Stirrings too, because for a lot of these decks it's also Ancient Stirring, or it's like one or the other. But like, we see Faithless Looting go down as a pillar of the format, and you unban a card that people were terrified of. A boogeyman of formats past, and now we have both of them off there. With Jace the Mind Sculptor and Stoneforge Mystic are free in this format and are doing nothing.
Yeah, they're played in like mediocre decks. And they're not the most powerful thing you're doing in those decks.
Like I will play one of those decks if I play this weekend. That's because I want to play those cards and I'm an idiot. Because if I was not an idiot, I would find a way to play an Urza deck, or I wouldn't spend $40.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just where it is. You know what I mean? I would be doing something unfair. You know, you're going to play Storm, you're going to play Amulet Titan, you're going to play Tron, you're going to play Dredge. You're not going to play Magic in a traditional way. And Modern keeps getting to this point, and like it's tough to say then like, is that just Modern? Is Modern just doomed to always get back to this breaking saturation point where you have to play just a disgusting, like obscene, obtuse thing that happens on turn 3? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's true, and if it is, that's sad. But I think maybe Wanty just needs to be more aggressive. And again, like we can argue what Modern Horizons did to the format. So far, to me, it's not done very much good. It's not done much good. I think we were hopeful on this. We were not hopeful. We saw like, I don't think it's going to do much to the format. We were wrong. I've said multiple times we were wrong. Now it's probably done way too much to the format. And it's upsetting because I don't think Modern has gotten better since Modern Horizons. I don't think Modern has gotten better in a long time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that sentiment in the slightest, to be perfectly honest. I think like I think that it's a real, like truthfully, like a real actual shame that Modern Horizons like went from we might see like obviously like the Horizon lands are going to do something and maybe this card and that card and whatever, to being like, wow, this actually messed up like the format like real bad.
We messed up at least 2 formats.
Oh yeah. And I think like it's wild, one, to be like, why, I don't know why we ever try to evaluate cards, because it's super difficult. And
that's why we didn't do a full on Palooza.
It's way too difficult, especially when you're looking at something that goes directly into Modern. And it's just disappointing because like I think this will deter them from trying to do like Modern Horizons 2. I know it was successful. Like I know Modern Horizons was successful, right?
Right.
But I think like the problems that clearly arose from it are not worth trying to like have another crack at it.
No, I don't begrudge them for trying, as long as they're willing to admit mistakes. Hogak, they tried a light ban first. That did not work. And I hope, and
if anything, made it better.
Right. And like I said, like maybe an Opal ban is enough to turn the Urza decks off, but I don't know. They're very aroused. But here's what I will say. I think, if this is a learning process, and I think what we're going to end up getting to is it's got to be a mix of all 3. It's got to be a Master set that is also Horizon set. Modern Horizons, they really didn't put in a ton of impactful older cards. Like, what's the most impactful older card they actually they put into Modern with Modern Horizons?
Lava Dart.
Okay, but that's not true now. But yes, it was. Cycling lands, the Dredge uses them, Jun's using them with Ren and 6. Latimer's Call, seeing play. It's probably something I'm obviously missing. We had Alter, saw a ton of play for the Hogak decks. But all those cards I think have been pretty minor compared to the new cards, and they had so much space to design new cards. We're seeing a lot of them be very, very powerful. And maybe there's just got to be a mix so that there's not as much space for that. It's got to be part Modern Horizons, part Modern Masters. So the reprints aren't just coming from older sets; they're also those staples, so we can get them into the format and get the cost down a little bit on those. And then you don't have to worry about making as many of these new cards, so you don't have to balance as many new cards, because I think the amount of cards they put in just made it hard to balance. And I think that also, not to give us an out, but also gives like lots of people who were low on this set an out, because how could you evaluate when there were so many?
Yeah. So in speaking to banning something like Mox Opal, do you have a follow-up ban? Do you have a follow-up thing to get rid of to depower the next best thing?
I wish I wish they would just go harder on it and just take Stirrings.
Yeah.
Take Opal. Take Spirit Guide. I know it's not really being a real problem, but just take it and be done with them. Maybe you take if you're really trying to push the format back towards creatures, then maybe you've got to go a little bit further and take something else spell centric. They've tried really hard to make sure Storm isn't a deck, and Storm continues to be a deck. So I don't know, maybe just ban all the cards that have Storm as a mechanic and be done with it. I don't think that's drastic. It's something I don't know if they want to do, but I think I think you have to, as far as the next deck. Here's the thing: we called Urza as the next big deck. When we talked about what was going to happen, it's like the Urza decks are going to come in and make room for it, and they've done it. Now, part of that's also Emery, being just an obscene card. But I don't know after that. And I think maybe that's okay. Modern has to be able to be fruitful in this way. I'm going to go back to something I've made a joke about multiple times. I'm going to say it again. They've done all these unbannings. I still think it might be time to unban Splinter Twin. I know you might get frustrated about diversity there, but there isn't a check on the format to stop these decks from being the only thing that matters. You know what I mean? These decks don't have to interact with. Look, they're playing Oko as their interaction for Burn. You know what I mean? And Burn is the arbiter of the format now. Burn is the only check for speed. The control decks are essentially gone. I will say Azorius Control did win the Classic, but otherwise it's been close to dead, right? The hate cards aren't. We have all these. People have always complained of the powerful hate cards that Modern has, but you're now looking at artifact combo decks that don't lose to Stony Silence or Collector Oof. They barely even care. They shrug it off.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
So I just think maybe that's how you put something back in the format that checks it. I don't know how you make sure that the numbers on that aren't too high. You do have some things that are good naturally in the format. Things Plague Engineer that can help with those sorts of things. But and that's probably a pipe dream. And I know I've harped on that enough times to make it seem like I'm being disingenuous. But ever since that, in my opinion, ever since that ban happened, the format has cycled between the fastest, most linear things you could possibly do, were small spikes of control working. But if Stoneforge Mystic and Jace weren't powerful enough to put the brakes on the format in some way, because here's the thing, turn 3 Batterskull doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Against almost all of these decks. Look at our top 8 from the open, all the decks we just talked about. How many of those decks care about a turn 3 Batterskull, which is something that we felt would be one of the most powerful things you could do in Modern? Does Gifts care at all about Batterskull? No. Does Amulet Titan care about Batterskull?
I don't think so.
Does Burn? Probably. Yes. Burn cares.
Definitely.
Does Death Shadow care?
I don't think so.
I don't really think so either. Does any Urza deck care?
No.
Selesnya Eldrazi might.
Because they're casting it.
Does Dredge care?
No.
Going even further, Devoted Devastation, do they care about Batterskull?
Probably not.
Not at all. Does Mono Green Tron care about Batterskull? No.
Azorius Stoneblade does, because they're casting it.
That's true. Humans cares?
Yep.
Does Espergorios care?
No.
Does Jund care? Maybe. Does Wurza care? It's another Urza deck, so no. No. They don't care. So the things that you want to put a check on the format, they don't play the right way. The nice thing about Twin is that it is a combo deck, but it cannot get faster than turn 4. Unless you're doing Simian Spirit Guide, something crazy.
Yeah.
It does not get faster there. And Modern, when they wanted it to be a turn 4 format, it had a check, right? Because light interaction would get you to that combo point, and the decks had to respect it. I don't, so for me, that feels like a fix to go back to something like that. But I think right now, the way they're handling the format, they don't care if it's a turn 3 format or not.
Yeah.
And it's not like some of these decks are that fast. I don't know how often Urza Ascendancy is actually winning on turns 2 and 3. You know what I mean? They can cast Ascendancy on 2 and go off on 3, and that's the game. Obviously, Titan tries to win by sometimes turn 2 and turn 3. That's kind of the thing it does.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is how many of these decks that are sitting up here have already experienced a ban in some way. How many bannings has Dredge seen? A card that was a main deck card get banned from, and it doesn't matter because inherently the game plan is so obtuse that it's that powerful. How many Splinter or Amulet Titan has seen a ban that it banned its namesake card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was Bloom Titan, right? And now it's Amulet Titan. how in looking at we could say Urza hasn't seen how many artifact decks have seen a pinpoint ban, and then Mox Opal and friends have just shifted into a different shell.
Yeah,
like it feels like they're playing whack-a-mole, and they keep just missing the mole, and the format's going to keep doing this until they do something a little stronger.
One thing that I think is really there's not a deck that is out there that is a punish you by remanding your spell and then having something to pay that off, right? That tempo play.
Ostensibly, that should be Stoneforge Mystic,
right? You would think, but it's there's no shell for that.
But all the spells cost 0 mana.
Yeah,
what are you gonna remand?
Nothing. That's what I'm saying. That feels like that felt like a good play pattern to have. I'm going to play this. It gets remanded. I get punished for that. I have to be aware of this. I have to play this game.
So I agree. Make remand great again. And you know what? Do you know what makes remand good?
Splinter Twin.
Splinter Twin.
I get it. I understand what I'm saying.
WotC, fix my format. Bring it back. Let me twin.
Let me twin. I'm not saying that's the answer, but it definitely feels like
I am. I've convinced myself.
There are seeming we're getting to a point where the issues that exist in Modern are coming to ahead, and something that is exhausting. I really truly feel like it's exhausting. I feel like we're some of the biggest proponents of Modern, and we've literally fallen off the format because it's become a joke.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunate. They literally unbanned Stoneforge Mystic, and I couldn't care less about the format. Not that I have any fealty to Stoneforge Mystic or anything like that, but it's just it should be new and exciting, and it's just nope, it's just Mox Opal. Mox Opal is the thing you should be doing. Figure out the best Mox Opal deck, and that's what you should be doing.
Yep, 100%.
And that has been, it feels like that's been true forever. Not forever, but true since KCI.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone away.
I mean, technically, it was true with eggs too.
Yeah,
the Opal decks, everything except for Affinity.
Right, Affinity's here. You do so. Remember when Stoneforge was in the sealed deck, where you could only play it in that sealed deck and not change any of its contents. You can only play Mox Opal if you're playing it in Affinity, and even then, Affinity got a new card. It got a new cranial plating, pretty much.
It did, but here's the thing. All the hate cards people are trying to play to stop the Urza decks that aren't good enough actually stop the Affinity decks.
Yeah.
Your Collector Oof, Stony Silence, turn off those decks. So those decks get punished out of the format despite being pretty fair. Fast for sure.
Yeah.
But manageable, has always been manageable. They get pushed out of the format while those cards that you're forced to play, how many times has an opponent definitely had it said a Stony Silence or a Collector Oof in play, and their opponent just casts Urza and goes, oh look at all my mana, paradoxical outcome, and you go, cool, I literally played my sideboard card, I played my interaction, and you said I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So Modern sad place. Hopefully Regionals has a good showing, but I don't see a hero. I don't see a hero in the format. You know what I mean? I don't see an equalizer here. I see us moving into an increasingly further chain of mana decks versus Urza combo decks.
Yeah, and the existence of Once Upon a Time has not made that anymore.
No,
hopeful.
that's the thing. Where I think especially when WotC makes a card like that for Standard, they're oh, well, we just want to make these decks more consistent, I guess, for creature decks. But all you end up doing is giving green decks an enabler that they don't deserve. It feels increasingly like a weird color pie break that they're just okay with.
Yeah.
Rosewater makes this big statement about how Kenrith's transformation is a color break and he doesn't like the green does that, blah, 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 but he's okay with the zero cost instant that fixes both your mana and your curve.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, Blue got Opt and we were yes, thank you for Opt. And Green's oh, Opt. Mine costs no mana. I look at 5 cards. How many times have you played a blue deck that kept Opt? And a low land count going, well, Opt will help me draw land. And the green decks are oh, okay, I guess.
Ancient Stirrings. Well, actually, Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Now Ancient Stirrings.
It's just oh, okay. Green just oh, blue. So blue's okay, fine. I'm just actually artifacts now. And then green's whoa, hold on. You have to go that bad. Hold on. Let's talk about this.
Whoa.
Let's not do anything crazy.
Oh man, it's disappointing. I think, and I think like it is time for. I think it's time for them to just like have a really heart to heart with the community and be like, hey, Modern Horizons, man, what were we thinking? Let's just what happens if they just ban all of Modern Horizons? I guess it doesn't really fix anything with the Jeskai Emery deck, unfortunately.
Well, it gets rid of
Astrolabe,
but Urza and Astrolabe. Do you remember, like, I mean, look at how the format has now shifted so drastically. Unfair cards. Do you remember when Ren and 6 was a playable card?
Yeah,
play Ren and 6 right now.
a few months ago.
Play Ren and 6 right now.
Weeks ago.
There was a copy of Jund in the top 32. Play Ren and 6 right now. Go ahead.
Nah,
see how much. Like, look at that card that is very powerful. Costs 2 mana. Comes down, and your opponent goes, "I don't care. I don't care that you played Magic. I don't care that you played a card. It does nothing." Welcome to Modern, where you either play the combo deck or a deck full of null rods.
Yeah. Null rod wouldn't even be that good, right?
No, it would do nothing. Hit the lights, Morgan.
Yeah, all right. Let's move along here. Let's just say, like, we do hope that Monday is more than just like a standard ban. To be perfectly honest, we would be pretty
after
excited.
Golos clean sweeps the Mythic Invitational.
we do hope that we see some more aggressive sort of approaches to multiple
all of our formats.
All of our formats. Make us more interested in anything other than Brawl.
Yeah, just that that Sword Kid video, that old YouTube delight.
Yeah.
Just do that approach to Modern. Just haphazardly swinging everywhere.
See what happens. All right. So again, coming up this weekend, we do have the Mythic Championship 5. That's going to be the arena only Mythic Championship. And we also have Star City Games Regionals. Ours is here in Columbus, Ohio. Your regionals may be other places. If you're local and want to go to ours, visit worldofcomictown.com and check out the event. If you want to go to yours, more power to you. That obviously makes more sense. You probably don't live where we live, or near where we live. But either way, I hope you have fun, ? It is Modern, and we just literally complained about it, so...
We're good at... You've listened to us long enough. We're good at complaints.
We're very good at complaining. But that is going to be everything for us this week. If you want to reach out to us, we do have multiple avenues for you to do so. You can tweet us. It's YourEndstep is our handle, and when you add us, it's @YourEndstep. We do have email. It's @YourEndstep@gmail.com. And then lastly, we Facebook. We Facebook. We have a Facebook.
You Facebook? I Facebook.
We Facebook. It's facebook.com/@YourEndstep. I actually don't Facebook. So if you do... If you do contact us via Facebook, you're specifically talking to Mike. So if you want to tell him secrets.
I don't think I've updated Facebook in a long time.
Well, we have one, and we may have messages on it. Well, welcome to our podcast. We do care about you, I think.
We do care about you, but we also don't care about Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, that's also true, yeah. If you are listening to us via a podcast app that lets you leave a rating or review, we would appreciate it. It helps gets us new listeners to the show. If you are listening to us via LegitMTG, thank you, LegitMTG. Thank you so much for picking up the show, and check out some of the other articles they have on there. If you're listening to us via MTG Cast, hey, thanks for listening. And we're glad to be back on the network. We've had a good slew of new episodes on there, so. Make sure you pick up some of the other podcasts they have available on that network. Thanks again, of course, to Comic Town, our lovely sponsor, and to our patrons. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/@YourEndstep. That is going to be everything for us this week, and you folks have a great one. Bye.